Okay, so you're here because you want to get past the headlines
Right.
to really understand what's going on with some of these interesting compounds.
Exactly. Cut through the noise.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into something called glycyl L-histidyl L-rosine copper. That's a mouthful.
It is. Most people just call it GHK-Cu. Much easier.
Right. GHK-Cu. It's popping up everywhere, especially in skincare regenerative science talk.
Yeah.
We've looked at the actual science, the studies, the data expert takes.
Yeah, our goal here is to really unpack GHK-Cu. What is this stuff? How does it actually do anything? And crucially, what's the solid evidence for the benefits people talk about?
Separating the facts from the, let's say, hopeful speculation.
Precisely. And I think you might find some surprising things, maybe a few aha moments along the way.
Okay, let's jump in. What is GHK-Cu fundamentally?
Well, at its heart, it's really small. It's a peptide, just 3 amino acids strung together: glycine, histidine, and lysine.
Okay.
And the crucial part is that it's bound to a copper ion. This binding, it's called chelation.
Chelation.
Right. And this isn't just a casual connection. The attraction between the peptide part and the copper is incredibly strong. We're talking a dissociation constant, a KD, around 10 to the minus 16 molar.
Wow. Okay, so that means it holds onto the copper very tightly.
Extremely tightly, which is important for a couple of reasons. One, it stops that copper ion from potentially causing, oxidative damage floating around on its own.
Makes sense.
And two, it means the GHK peptide can effectively deliver that copper where it's needed for certain enzymatic jobs in the body.
What kind of jobs are we talking about?
Well, a really key one is activating an enzyme called lysyl oxidase.
Lysyl oxidase.
Yeah, and that enzyme is critical for linking collagen and elastin fibers together. Think of it like the cross-stitching that gives skin its strength and elasticity.
Ah, okay, so it helps build that structure.
Exactly. But the story gets, well, even more interesting. GHK-Cu does more than just deliver copper.
This is the gene expression part I've read about. It actually talks to our DNA.
In a manner of speaking, yes. It's quite remarkable. Research shows GHK-Cu can influence the activity levels of thousands of human genes.
Thousands. From this one little peptide.
Thousands. It acts almost like a master switch, subtly tuning the activity up or down for genes involved in things like repair, protection, and inflammation.
That's fascinating. So where do we see the biggest impact? Which genes does it fiddle with most?
We generally see the effects cluster in about 3 main areas. First, tissue repair gets a boost.
How so?
It upregulates genes, meaning it increases their activity for making stuff like collagen types I, 3, and 4, decorin, TGF-beta, all crucial building blocks for skin and other tissues.
Okay, more building blocks. Makes sense for repair.
Second, it dials down inflammation. It influences pathways that reduce the production of inflammatory signals like TNF-alpha, IL-6, and this key regulator called NF-kappa.
So calming things down.
Right. And third, it seems to beef up our own antioxidant defenses. It upregulates enzymes like SOD superoxide dismutase and catalase. These guys help neutralize harmful free radicals.
So repair, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. That's quite a portfolio.
It really is. And there was this one study, Pickart and colleagues back in 2015, that really put a number on it.
Oh, yeah. What did they find?
They found that in fibroblasts, which are key skin cells, GHK-Cu could actually modulate the expression of about 31% of the genes associated with repair processes.
31%. Almost a third.
Yep. Think about that. One small molecule influencing nearly a third of the genetic machinery involved in healing. That's significant leverage, way beyond just moisturizing.
Okay, wow. So we understand the what and the how at the molecular level. Let's talk results. What's the actual tangible evidence, starting with skin dermatology, anti-aging?
Right. This is probably where the evidence is the most robust. We have multiple studies showing it stimulates collagen production.
Like measurably?
Yes. For instance, one study reported, I believe, a 17% increase in collagen eye synthesis. That's significant.
17%, okay.
And clinical trials back this up with visible results. A study published in 2020 found improvements in skin firmness somewhere between 8 and 15% after about 12 weeks of use.
Those numbers sound pretty good. Is it the holy grail for wrinkles then?
Well, we need a bit of perspective there. GHK-Cu definitely works better than a placebo. The studies show that. But when you compare it head-to-head with something like, say, prescription retinoids for deeper wrinkles, the retinoids generally still come out on top.
Right. So it helps, it's good, But maybe not the strongest player for very deep wrinkles.
Exactly. It's a valuable tool, likely best used as part of a routine rather than expecting it to erase decades overnight. Managing expectations is key.
And does it matter how you get it onto your skin?
Hmm.
Like the cream or serum itself?
Oh, absolutely. Formulation is critical for anything topical. The research suggests that liposomal serums seem to work best.
Liposomal, like little delivery bubbles.
Sort of, yeah. They encapsulate the GHK-Cu, helping it get through the skin barrier more effectively. And the concentration seems important too. Studies often use between 0.5% and 2%.
Okay, good to know. Let's shift gears slightly. Wound healing. That's another big area for GHK-Q, isn't it?
Yes, and the evidence here is also quite compelling, particularly in difficult to heal wounds.
Like what?
Diabetic ulcers, for example. One study showed GHK-Q improved healing by around 40% compared to the placebo group. That was back in 2014.
40% faster healing in diabetic ulcers. That's huge.
It's a very significant improvement in a challenging situation. It also seems to help reduce scarring, say, in burn patients.
How does it do that?
Probably through a combination of things we already mentioned, reducing inflammation, stimulating those building blocks like collagen, and also encouraging the growth of new blood vessels. That's called angiogenesis.
Right, getting blood supplied to the healing area.
Precisely.
You touched on the anti-inflammatory effects earlier. How does that play out practically?
Well, because it can dampen down those inflammatory signals like TNF-alpha and IL-6. It can be really useful after procedures that cause inflammation, like laser resurfacing or chemical peels. It might help calm the skin down faster, reduce redness and recovery time.
Okay, so post-procedure care.
Yeah, and there's also interest in using it for chronic inflammatory skin issues, things like rosacea or eczema, but more specific research is definitely needed there.
Got it. Now let's look at the more maybe out there or experimental uses. I keep hearing about neuroprotection.
Ah, yes. This is exciting, but we need big flashing caveats here.
Okay, what's the excitement?
The excitement comes from preclinical studies, mostly animal models, particularly for Alzheimer's disease.
Alzheimer's, what are they seeing?
Some studies, using things like intranasal delivery in mice, have reported seeing fewer amyloid beta plaques, those sticky proteins that build up in Alzheimer's brains, and even some hints of improved cognitive function in the animals. There was a paper in Aging in 2020 showing some of this.
Fewer plaques and better cognition in mice. That sounds potentially game-changing.
Potentially, yes. And this is the crucial, but this is preclinical animal studies. We have no solid human trial data confirming these effects yet.
Right. Big leap from mice to humans.
A huge leap. And there's also the technical challenge. How do you reliably get enough GHK-Q into the human brain? The blood-brain barrier is a serious obstacle. Intranasal is being explored, but it's not fully solved.
So very promising, but very early days for neuroprotection.
Extremely early days. Need to be cautious with the hype there.
Okay. What about hair growth? That's another one you hear about.
Yeah, there's some in vitro evidence studies done in lab dishes, basically suggesting GHK-Q might prolong the anagen phase, the active growth phase of hair follicles.
Okay, so lab dish studies look interesting.
Right. And you'll definitely find people online anecdotally saying it helped their hair. But again,
No big clinical trials.
exactly. We lack the large-scale, randomized controlled trials needed to say definitively, yes, this works for common pattern baldness or androgenetic alopecia. The solid proof just isn't there yet for hair loss.
Understood. And then there's the idea of using it systemically, like injections or pills for overall anti-aging.
This is where we need to be really clear and quite firm. The human data for systemic anti-aging benefits is, well, it's practically non-existent at this point.
So no proof it works that way.
No robust proof. And more importantly, taking GHK-Cu systemically, especially via injections or supplements, brings up significant safety concerns.
Ah, okay. What kind of concerns?
The main one is the risk of copper overload. Your body needs copper, but too much can be toxic.
Right, copper toxicity.
Yeah, it can potentially harm the liver, cause neurological problems.
Ah,
It's particularly risky for people who already have issues processing copper, like those with Wilson's disease.
so injecting this stuff isn't a good idea.
It's currently unregulated for that purpose, used off-label, and carries real risks. It cannot be stressed enough. GHK-Q is only approved for topical use in cosmetics right now. Systemic use is not established as safe or effective.
That's a critical distinction. Let's stay on safety for a moment. For the topical use, the creams and serums, how safe are they generally?
Generally, the safety profile for topical GHK-Q looks very good. In the clinical trials for skincare, it's usually reported as being well tolerated.
Meaning not much irritation.
Exactly. Low rates of irritation or sensitivity reported. It's also considered non-comedogenic.
Doesn't clog pores.
Right, so it should be suitable even for people with acne-prone skin. Overall, topical use seems quite safe based on current data.
But the systemic risks, as you said, are a different story.
A very different story. Copper accumulation is the main worry. Injectable forms, especially from compounding pharmacies or online sources, lack regulatory oversight and could pose serious health risks. Stick to the approved topical cosmetic applications.
Crystal clear. Okay, so looking forward then, where is the research on GHK-Cu heading? What's next?
There are definitely some interesting directions. First, we do need those rigorous human trials for some of the emerging areas, like the neuroprotection angle, probably focusing heavily on safe and effective delivery methods like intranasal.
More human data needed.
Absolutely. Second, there's ongoing work on improving the delivery systems for topical use, too. Think nanoparticles, maybe microneedle patches, ways to get it deeper into the skin more efficiently.
Better penetration for potentially better results.
Potentially. And third, researchers are starting to look at combinations. Could GHK-Cu work even better alongside other things like growth factors or exosomes? Exploring those synergies is another frontier.
Interesting. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. For you listening, what are the main things to take away from this deep dive on GHK-Cu?
I think the core message is that GHK-Cu shows genuine, evidence-backed promise for skin regeneration and wound healing when used topically. The data on collagen stimulation, inflammation reduction, accelerated repair, that's pretty solid.
So for skin, it's a legitimate ingredient to consider.
Yes. But for these other potential uses, neuroprotection, hair growth, while exciting, they're still largely in the early experimental stages. Much more human research is needed before we can make strong claims there.
And the systemic use?
Systemic use currently lacks robust human evidence and carries significant safety risks related to copper overload. It's crucial to stick to the proven topical applications.
So the key really is being informed, understanding where the solid science is and where things are still speculative, even if they sound exciting.
Exactly. Knowing the difference is power.
It really is fascinating, though, isn't it? How our own bodies make these molecules that have such complex and potentially powerful effects.
It is quite amazing.
Makes you wonder, what other compounds naturally produced within us might hold similar hidden benefits that we're only just starting to scratch the surface of understanding? Something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.